Welcome back to Tutor Boot. I'm so glad you could join again.
I'm super excited. Super excited.
Fabulous. And just in case anyone missed last time, could you give us a little intro?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everybody. Noah Warder, VP of People and Culture at Accent Inns and Hotel Z. We're a hotel chain up here in Canada with 8 locations, and I've been in the HR field for about 11 years now. Got my start in hospitality restaurants, then moved into tech, and now I'm back in hotels. So, kind of done the full circle of back to my origins, which I'm loving.
Fabulous. And so glad that you could be here with us today because there are some things in here. I always, honestly, I like when somebody has a different perspective than I do. And I think having you have worked in Canada, I feel like that balances out my very like US centric views of work. So I'm excited to see what you have to say about some of these things.
I've worked in both countries, so like it's nice to see the juxtaposition sometimes.
Fabulous. Cool. So we're starting off with Gen Z is actually taking sick days, unlike their older coworkers. It's redefining the workplace. What did you think?
Um, I liked the article because it talks a lot about why they're doing it. Like, why
Mhm.
are this group of people taking more sick days and actually utilizing the space to go and take time for themselves and avoid burnout and do all of these things? And they're demanding more of it, which I think is great. And like, yeah, I look at my dad. Like, I don't remember my dad taking a sick day unless he was like literally like passed out with a fever in the bathroom because he couldn't move. Like, there was very few times he didn't go into work because he was so ill. But just I think it's better. It's also better for business because we're not spreading disease in our offices anymore. Like, let's be honest. I would rather someone be like, "Hey, I might be a little sick." I'm like, "Great, don't come to the office. No one else wants to get sick." Like, let's just
Yeah.
remove that whole unnecessary thing that happens to us now. Like,
Yeah.
I think this is a great thing. I think it's modeling the right behavior, and I think more people need to do this.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And this is one of the things that I said I'm interested if since you have that perspective of working, between the Canada and the US, because in the US I feel like this is still pretty terrible where people will show up to work sick. Like there is just some, and I'm like, why? Because I've done it myself too. I'm like, why?
Oh
I
yeah.
tell everybody else not to do it. Why am I doing it? And just like, what is it about the work culture that we're like, we can't be home and just be sick. And I don't know if it is the same within Canada or if people have a little bit more sense around it. But
It's definitely there. It's I wouldn't say it's as bad. Like having worked in a couple of companies that had both Canadian and US offices, I'd say Canadians are more likely to take time off. I think part of that is just, time off is enshrined in our Employment Standards Act, and we are
yeah,
designated paid vacation and
what's that like?
it's not, it's not a little bit. It could be better, but it's there. And we've recently just like in some provinces, I don't think all of them, but at least in BC where I operate, everyone gets 5 paid sick days. Like that is standard from like your cashier at the local supermarket to an executive. Everyone has to have at least minimum 5 days of paid sick leave. That was not a thing before, but it is now, which is awesome. I love
Yeah,
it. People need sick days.
yeah,
Like you said, I don't want people showing up sick because then they're just going to make everyone else sick. And that just makes the whole thing bad.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah. And I think to your point of like, I like how they talk about like this Gen Z is breaking old work norms and the old rules. And it's like, well, no, those rules were never there. There was just this like pressure for us to show up even when we
yeah,
were sick. And we wouldn't do anything. We just kind of sat there being miserable, trying to get work done, but not being very effective at it. So like I often tell my team and other people like take the day off, rest, relax, recover, and then tomorrow you'll be better. And all the things that you would have tried to do and then done poorly, you would have had to redo anyways. So let's just not do that.
right. Exactly. I mean, I think one of the things that I like, it's always in my head whenever I see Gen Z as part of they're doing this, they're doing that. I'm always questioning it a little bit because if we look at, so they're like Gen Z, they're saying this is attributed to Gen Z. Gen Z is anywhere from 12 to 26 years old. So like there is, they're not completely, let's be a little bit realistic. I don't know if they're like completely changing the workforce at this
No.
part.
How many
I feel
12-year-olds
like,
are working right now? Like,
yeah, I know the 12-year-olds are like, I'm calling out sick. Um, but also, then the interesting thing is when in the article they're saying employees younger than 36 are leading the charge. And it's like, okay, well, that's millennials as well, right? So I'm like, okay, it's not just about that. And I think also for me, it's really hard to untangle anything that we attribute to Gen Z from the pandemic because of the fact that like that changed how a lot of people operated. I mean, I think, in this at this point and throughout that whole period, I would be much more likely, like now, to just call out sick, right? And to
mhm.
actually be sick and take that time and not, even though I'm remote, I wouldn't go in office now, right? So I think that that has fundamentally, and because so many people went through such a hard time, that like burnout, sickness, all of these things, I think folks are in general much more likely to be like, I'm sick, I'm taking my PTO, I'm, going on vacation and establishing healthier boundaries because of that experience. So not to say it's not, the title isn't accurate. But I feel like there's a lot more than just, about Gen Z redefining sick days. I think that there is kind of a sweep in the workplace more generally, which I am very much for. Like, great, love it that people are having this even more broadly.
Well, I mean, they even say it in the article that like sick leave in the US has increased 55%. That's not just Gen Z,
No,
considering that like
it
they
can't.
are a fraction of the workforce. Like it's
Yeah.
like you said, everyone's taking more sick leave, everyone's taking more vacation. And the other thing of like, let's stop calling them the COVID generation. Like, let's just not do that. Let's not put
It's,
that label on somebody.
yeah.
Like,
No. Oh no. No. Let's not do that.
no, no. More sick days, great. More leave, great. Like,
Yeah.
let's keep demanding that. Let's keep giving it to our teams. And like you look at companies that have the most like robust and good like sick leave policies and vacation policies. And guess what? They also have the highest retention rates of their team and they have the highest productivities of their team and they generally have better margin than other competitors. Like
Yeah.
this is not rocket science.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Now I want to move us on to this one. The title, I've worked in HR for 36 years. Here are the three biggest changes I've seen in the workplace and why I think the dial has swung too far in employees' favor. What? Yeah. We're both having our scrunched up faces at this one.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Well, this one was interesting because he does highlight some great things about how like things have gotten better. People are not like they're pushing back more on things like sexism and racism in the workplace, and like overall things have gotten better, which he talks a lot about how good that is. It's better for his daughters that he talks about. But then he like kind of just trips up a little bit and talks a bit about
Took a
like,
left turn at
yeah,
the end
yeah,
there.
just couldn't take it to the end. Choked a little bit. It's just like talks about how like people are still demanding too much of their employers and how remote work is destroying people's ability to socialize and talk to one another and like that it's insanity. Like uh,
Yeah.
I think there's that like I think there is a lot of benefits from working and meeting people in person. I think the generation of the person who wrote this article feels like that has to be the only way to get those skills and ability, and that has to be the default 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And they
Yes.
don't understand that you can have both. That
Yeah.
you can, there are some cons to remote work only for sure. Loneliness, mental health, whatever. But there are a lot of cons to in office only as well. And there's cons to hybrid. So it's really figuring out what works best for the individual. And I do believe that, yeah. younger people like are asking for some more in-person interactions, but they also want the freedom of remote work. So you have to be able to provide both.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's this inflexibility that this article dives into a little bit of like, we've gone too far. It's like, no, we haven't gone too far. We just haven't figured out the best way to manage this new world of work. And that doesn't mean that we've gone too far. It just means that we're still experimenting with some things.
Yeah.
Like going backwards isn't the answer. It's let's keep moving forwards. Let's just figure out a better way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to your point, I think it's I think a lot of people are like, oh, but collaboration. And it's like, okay, no, what it is that you haven't really figured out performance in this kind of environment, and that worries you and freaks you out. You haven't really figured out how to work asynchronously, because maybe you haven't tried, like I think there are other things in there. So it was kind of that weird left turn at the end of like, oh, this person just doesn't like remote work. This person really just wants people in the office all the time. And even, like kind of before that, I was like, oh man, I think that again, maybe the workplace is better in some ways. It's less sexist, less racist. But as a white
Overtly.
person, I don't know that I would feel comfortable claiming that that's the way it is, or like I don't know. I think that
A
he,
white dude.
yeah, right. Coming from a person who seems to be like a white cis het man, able-bodied man, I don't know if like that is hey, the workplace is better. I maybe ask around. Like, I don't know that everyone would share that view with you. I think a lot of people might say all of those things are still there. They're just not as obvious as they used to be, or, so I think for me that was also a bit like, okay, maybe. I don't know though. I don't know if I'd make that claim. And I certainly wouldn't say that, hey, everybody signed a contract saying they were going to work in office Monday to Friday. And so they should suck it up and work from the office Monday to Friday. Like that's also not something I would say.
Yeah, it's
So
like saying you sign a contract that infringes upon your legal rights. You should still do it anyways because that's the way it is. Like it's no, there's a reason why things change.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. We can't keep
Um,
doing things the same way that we did them last year. Like that's insanity. That is literally the definition of insanity.
Yes. Yeah. And this is another one I think is somewhat kind of along the lines here. Um, White collar work is just meetings now. The meeting industrial complex has grown to the point that communications has eclipsed creativity as the central skill of modern work. I let by the meeting industrial complex just kind of makes me giggle. But yes, chef's kiss. What did you think of this one?
Ah, this just points out to me that companies don't know how the hell to run meetings,
Yeah,
collaboration. Like but that is the central premise of this article. It's not actually that we have too many meetings. I mean, we do. There's definitely too many meetings, but it's because people don't know how to run a proper meeting. Like it's a skill to run a meeting, and no one's teaching anyone how to run a meeting.
yeah,
And I think the other part of this is, and I think it actually touched on another article that we've talked about in the past, but it's we as a society have gone too far on technical skills because they're easily measurable, like sales, producing, all those kinds of things. And no one focused on the essential skills like communication, empathy, compassion, that stuff that as HR people we've known is very important for a very long time and no one was listening to us.
yeah,
Now people are starting to listen because this happens where you have a bunch of people who never learned those other skills trying to run meetings, trying to run companies, trying to collaborate, and none of them know how to communicate properly. None of them know how to be empathetic towards one another. None of them know how to sit down and admit that they're wrong and that the person across the table has a better idea than they do. So they should go with that idea instead. So it's not a meeting issue, it's a more fundamental issue. The meetings are a symptom of something that's happening, which is we don't know how to collaborate. And so we just keep throwing meetings at the issue, hoping that'll fix it. But nobody's saying, hey, maybe we should all learn how to communicate a bit better.
Yeah, I think that was the part that really stuck out to me. It's like I took it from the perspective of really calling out, hey, this is kind of an issue. Like we are in meetings more and more and more. Like that's taking up more and more of our time. And we're doing all this context switching because we're in so many meetings that, we're losing the time that we're spending on focus work and even the time that we have to focus because we're context switching so much, and we're in these meetings that maybe don't even need to be meetings, but to your point, this is like exactly what I was thinking in terms of so what is it's a symptom of something else, right? And to me, it's a symptom of people as our organizations have gotten more complex, not knowing how to communicate well with one another, particularly asynchronously. And I think there has been this idea that you can throw a lot of tools at it, like that it's about the tool, but it's not about the tool. You know what I
Uh,
mean? It's not.
Slack's not going to solve your problem.
No,
Teams is not going to solve your problem. It just
no.
makes things more noisy.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly. It's really like there's so much more about, okay, what is the to your point, like how to actually run a good meeting. What are things that could be done outside of meetings? How can we, collaborate or get work done without us all having to be face to face talking to one another? Especially because some people just don't work well that way. Right? Like that,
Mhm.
that is not, that might work well for people who are more extroverted or needed to talk out their ideas. It doesn't work well for others, right? So you're all already creating a situation in which some folks it's not how they're going to best think. It's not how they're going to best present their ideas. So yeah, I thought it was interesting, but I don't know that it gets to like the true underlying problem of why it has become this way.
Yeah, it's like, here's a problem, and that's it.
This problem? Yeah, I know about it too.
Yeah, yeah. Here's this problem that we all know exists, but I'm going to write about it and throw some stats behind it from Microsoft.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was validating. I'm like, yes, I do spend forever in meetings. Thank you for seeing me. But
Yeah, yeah. It's probably why it did so well on the algorithms is because everyone's like, yes, yes, this is a thing.
yes. And now we have to get to the reasoning, like the reason behind that, which I think all of these things to me kind of generally come together in like needing to learn how to better collaborate, communicate, work asynchronously, like that we haven't figured out hybrid, to your point, hybrid remote, like we haven't fully figured that out yet. We haven't fully figured out how to measure performance for a lot of things. So we think it's about, time as opposed to like the outcome, all of this kind of stuff. It to me is this is what it ends up in meetings. It's all just meetings.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we don't know how to measure half of what we do as organizations because we only know how to measure revenue and output of product. We don't know how to measure all the stuff that goes into that. And
Yeah.
so I'm sure you've come across this as leading HR teams of like, I'm dealing with my team right now where we look at like our goals for that we set. And then sometimes we don't get to those goals because we ended up having to fight 70 fires along the way. But then if another executive looks at our goal sheet and is like, well, you didn't complete any of your goals last quarter. It's like, well, let me tell you what we did do.
Right. Right. Yeah. And how are you, but are you capturing all of that? Right. Or how are you
Yeah.
capturing it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's this mentality of like we only measure the output of activities, like dollars spent, dollars gained, product built, product designed, all that kind of stuff. We don't properly or know how to measure all the stuff that goes into all of that, which is like actually 75% of the work. And so we just end up having meetings about it. Let's have more meetings. Let's talk about it more. Let's collaborate more because that's got to be the solution, right?
Right. Oh goodness. Well, we're probably late to some meetings right now, so we're
Getting
gonna
close, almost
wrap
there.
it up. All right, Noah. Well, thank you so much for joining me again. It was a pleasure to have you on Tutor Boot.
Thanks, Stacy. Appreciate it. It's so much fun.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Toot or Boot.
You can keep in touch with me, Stacy, on LinkedIn, and be sure to subscribe to our newsletter at tootorboot.com. And if you're enjoying Toot or Boot, we'd appreciate your positive review on your favorite podcast platform.